Welcome to the last video in the reproduction series, Reproduction 9, Growth and Development. This slide shows the gestation lengths of the different species. So cattle average about 280 days, or 9 months, 10 days if you want to count on the calendar. There can be quite a bit of variation by all these species for gestation length by breeds. For example, in cattle, Holsteins average about 277 days, while Brown Swiss average about 2 weeks longer, about 290 days. So in sheep, different breeds can have different gestation lengths. Also within a breed, there is also genetic variation on gestation lengths too. So here we have averages, but realize that there can be genetic variation within species and genetic variation within breeds. So horses have the longest gestation length here, 11 months, which is very similar to llamas and alpacas. So we have goats at about 5 months, swine 114 days, which is 3 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days. But the industry experts tell me that as we've selected pigs for faster growth, we've also decreased the average days of gestation from 114 down to 113 days. So even though the textbooks all say 114 days, 113 days is probably closer for modern pigs. And then we have dogs and cats, just about 2 months. And for those of you that may have pet mice, the gestation length on mice is only about 30 days. So a lot of variation among mammals as far as gestation lengths. So here we have that developing embryo. At time of fertilization, we're a single cell, and after fertilization, we call the individual a zygote. After day 1, we'll have 2 cells. At day 3 in cattle, we have 8 cells. So it goes from 1 cell to 2 cells to 4 cells to 8 cells. At almost a week, we have a morula. So the outer coating of the egg is the zona pellucida, and that outer coating has not grown. So the zona pellucida is still intact. We're getting many more cells. The cells are just getting smaller. At about day 10 to 12 in cows, we have a blastocyst. So we have the inner cell mass, which is going to be that developing fetus. These outer cells are going to differentiate into the placenta. And notice at this time the embryo has not gotten larger. After 2 weeks in cattle, the zona pellucida has disintegrated, and now we get elongation of the blastocyst. And the cells continue to multiply, and our embryo is getting larger at this point. Here we have timing of embryonic development of different species. The relative timing of development is proportional to the species gestation lengths. So obviously with mice, for example, with a gestation length of only 30 days, things are going to happen a lot faster. We can just go through and look at what's happening with that cattle embryo. After 24 hours, we go from 1 cell to 2 cells. At 3 days, we're at 8 cells. The embryo is in the oviduct, comes down into the uterus at about 3.5 days after fertilization. At 8 days, we're at the blastocyst stage. At 2 weeks we get elongation. At 4 to 5, or at 5 weeks, 35 days, we have placentation. Placentation means that the placenta is now embedded against the uterine wall, and we have active exchange of nutrients between the uterus and the placenta. As that embryo develops and we get multiple cells, each cell is just like the other until we start getting differentiation where cells become specific organs. And it actually happens pretty quickly. With cattle, at 22 days, we have a heartbeat already. 25 days, you'll notice the forelimb bud, so the front leg is starting to develop. 28 days, we've got the hind limb bud. The lens of the eye is complete at 30 days. At 45 days, the facial features have been completed. And at this point, we have a miniature animal with all the organs there, at least in development. So at 45 days, we say that differentiation has been completed, and the embryo at this time is no longer referred to as an embryo. Instead, we're going to refer to it as a fetus. So after differentiation, the embryo is now a fetus. So here we have a look at as things develop here. 45 days or a fetus, 110 days we have the teeth growing. 182 days we're started getting hair developed. It's going to develop on the tip of the tail first and then kind of work its way forward on the animal. At 230 days we should have a full hair coat on that animal, and at 280 days we're going to have the animal being born. We have here weights in kilograms of that developing fetus. After the first trimester, we're pretty small yet. We're pretty small. We're at just measured in grams rather than kilograms really after 3 months. And the whole idea here is during the first 3 to 5 months, nutritional requirements of the mother really doesn't increase very much because the fetus is just growing at a slow rate. But during the last trimester, as the fetus is growing faster, then we want to increase the nutrients that we give that mother, because the mother is eating for 2 or maybe eating for a dozen in the case of litter-bearing species. Well, here we have the growth curve and weight for an individual. So here we have the gestation period. Growth is kind of slow, picks up the last trimester. Here we have the young animal, and it's a small animal, so it can't eat all that much, but it's going to be on a high nutritional diet with a lot of milk and start with a dry feed, and then it can really take off and grow fast. As we reach maturity, we kind of slow down. Well, this slide shows the growth curve for bone, fat, and muscle. So we see here that bone plateaus first. So we get a lot of our bone development early on. Important that the young animal gets enough calcium and phosphorus and other minerals at this time for the good bone growth. Muscle grows quite a bit right in this time frame here, but then eventually is going to plateau. Young animals tend to stay pretty trim. As they go towards maturity, they'll put on more fat. And as long as we're giving the animal more nutrients in the form of energy than the animal needs, the animals can continue to get fatter. As far as if we're producing food-producing animals like pigs, we probably don't want to slaughter them out in this area. As that muscle starts to plateau, this area here would probably be a good time to send that pig or chicken or steer onto market. Well, that includes the last video of the reproduction system. Hope you enjoyed the videos and have a good day.